Welcome to the Tesla Power Podcast. This is where we're building the Tesla energy community. We're covering solar panels, solar roof, and Powerwall for your home. I'm Aaron Brady, and today let's talk about the role of optimizers in a solar array. Let's talk about the Florida net metering bill. Let's talk about third-party Tesla installers. And let's talk about adding panels to an existing system and a lot more. Let's do it. And like we always do, we'll kick off the podcast with community input. You can participate in lots of ways. You can leave a comment below. You can leak your YouTube videos. You can call 203-816-5150. You can email teslapowerpodcast@gmail.com. And you know what? It'd be great to get some audio and video questions. They can really add some dimension to the show since, it's a multimedia format. But let's get to these comments. All of these are email comments. There have been a ton since the last episode. Let's bring those up. That first one is from Marti Edwards. He's got a bit of trouble with a solar optimizer. Let's read it. Quote, "Hey there, our 25 panels on the garage is off this month. Solaredge Optimizer 1 isn't working and the whole panels is shut down. I'm thinking getting out of optimizers and getting a string inverter. I'm not happy with Solaredge. This is the second time." End quote. Now, I'm really surprised to hear that an optimizer is killing the whole system. The way I'd assumed it worked was that the optimizer ran in parallel with each panel, and that allowed the panels to connect independently to the inverter, where it's then tied into a single MPPT. The point being to optimize the production of each panel by decoupling it from any other panels that might be shaded and might force the entire string to throttle their production. Now, taking a look at the Solaredge website, you can see here that they describe optimizers as essentially individualized MPPTs. I don't know. I guess I don't understand the difference between microinverter and optimizer. So I did a quick Google search. I get a good overview from Energy Sage. Such a great set of resources, I got to say. And, they point out with a couple of really cool charts, infographics, they lay out everything pretty well. So if we scroll down, we can see here, they show string inverters. Let's take it full screen. They connect the panels in parallel. So this one's connected to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. And then all of that is combined at the inverter that then sends AC power to the electrical panel. And then if we look at power optimizers, right? Each panel is connected to a power optimizer individually. And then those power optimizers are summed at the inverter. And then the inverter then sends AC to the electrical panel. So we're essentially connecting each panel directly to the inverter. And then, there's the third way of doing this where there's no inverter at all, right? There's microinverters. They send AC to the panel independently. So you don't just do an optimizer and then sum them and send them to the panel. These microinverters are going to send AC from each solar panel directly to your main home electrical panel. I think I'm getting all this right? It still kind of got me confused. So I reached out to one of my Tesla contacts to just make sure I've got this right. They do confirm that losing an optimizer shouldn't affect the rest of the panels on the MPPT and absolutely would not take down the whole inverter. So it may be that there's an issue with the inverter itself and not with an optimizer. Really would be worth making sure. Of course, a tech's going to come out and tell you for sure, but it really sucks either way, and I hope you're able to get the issue resolved quickly. Let us know what it ends up taking to fix the problem. The rest of us would be really interested to know. And then Marti Edwards is also looking to add panels to his system. Let's read. Quote, "I was thinking of adding more solar panels. Tesla offers 400-watt panels now. Can you or someone get me a referral code, please?" End quote. And for sure, here's the link. This is ts.la/Aaron62310. I always put these in the show notes at the bottom. So if you need a referral code too, absolutely use it. If you are investigating or if you navigate using this link, it's really helpful to point out what it looks like. So let me pull up that link. And I do this at the end of every show too, but this is what the page looks like. And once you get to this landing page, you'll click on order yours, and that will confirm your referral. As you step through the order, you'll see the $300 price reduction confirmed in the pricing estimate. So I really appreciate that you're asking for a referral link. Keep us posted on what ends up being required to add to your system. It may be that you already have enough capacity on your inverter to accommodate the additional generation. But if you run into anything unexpected, it would really be great to share with the community so the rest of us can be prepared, if any of us end up going through a similar situation. All right, next up, we've got Dwight Adams. He has a quick update on HB 741 in Florida. He says, quote, Governor DeSantis today vetoed HB 741, the net metering bill. Solar is safe in Florida, end quote. And it's good, from my perspective, I would say that the net metering incentive stays. Florida is really early on their adoption curve. The Sunshine State, there's a long way to go before they become a majority solar electrical generating state. And it's got more potential than most states. It makes it has the potential to make a lot of solar capacity because they have so much sun. They are called the Sunshine State after all. And of course, the hope is that it would make solar its primary source of electricity even year round. Of course, batteries are going to be needed for the assist. So we should be on the lookout for large projects to be announced over the next couple of years for battery storage projects at the grid scale. All right, next, we've got Rick Reed. He is in an odd area for Tesla Solar, but he has a Tesla Solar experience that he wants to share with the rest of us that might not be in a primary Tesla location. So not sure you will use any of this. It's from a vendor and not from Tesla itself, but we're getting Tesla panels and 2 Powerwalls installed today. We've been thinking about this for years and decided to bite the bullet for a couple of reasons. First, we live in Indiana, the desert when it comes to Tesla doing this, although they have been trying to start to build a presence in the state. And second, we moved recently, 3 years ago, to a home that doesn't have any problems getting as much sun as can shine. There are no trees, no other obstructions. And we noticed right away the grid power going out on average of 4 times a year. It stays out for about 5 to 6 hours each time it goes out for any number of reasons. The most recent was a car accident in the middle of the night, taking out a power pole, but most of the time it's weather related. Now, he outlines his search and his final system size is about 7.5 kilowatts. And he goes on saying this should run, this should run us day and night with enough sun. We're staying hooked up to the grid for a backup. And as far as net metering goes, it varies across the state, and it's not good for us. We'll get 2 cents per kilowatt we send back to the grid. But it is what it is right now. The state is way behind the solar board as far as I'm concerned. We're currently waiting on REMC, the County Electric Co-op, to okay going live any day now, getting excited, end quote. And Rick sent us some photos as well. So let's pull those up. It's really exciting to hear that somebody who's not in prime Tesla territory is still able to get the products and still getting excited about getting those products and getting them installed. I mean, certainly energy security is going to be a theme in this episode. It's a big deal to me, pushed us over the edge. I can absolutely understand why it would have pushed you guys over the edge. First image, we see the 2 Powerwalls for his installation. It's pretty cool. Next, we see the solar panels that are installed. Let's see if we can get it to go to the next photo here. These are the Hanwha 320 watt Q cell panels. They were packaged as the Tesla recommendation by the installer. And we can see the edging that they're putting on the panels to give them a sleek finished look. And it's really nice. I really like it. Here is the other array on the house. It's 9 more panels for almost 3 additional kilowatts of generation. And this is image 4. It's a close-up of the rail system and what might be a weatherproof junction box for the wiring. That's going to go under this last panel that still has yet to be installed. Hard to tell exactly what it is, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. This is the utility room with the Powerwalls, the electrical panel, and the Tesla string inverter. You can see the branding on the white box there. These are the outside appliances. We can see a Solaredge gateway, and it's this little antenna you can see up here at the top that gives that away. That is probably 4G connected over cell data, although they should also probably connect via Wi-Fi, and this is similar with the Tesla gateways. And then, of course, we also see the meter and the main shutoff switch. And Rick followed up with some more photos. Let me get those up as well. This is closer to the end of the installation, so we can see a little bit more detail. This one here is a close-up of the breaker panel and the inverter. Now, this isn't the main panel. This is the sub-panel that ties the solar system into the rest of the house. This one is another glamour shot of the outside utilities. I'm surprised it's not a Tesla gateway, since this is a Tesla project, but I guess if the installation isn't done by Tesla themselves, you can't use their gateways, right? Since they don't really have third-party access. So I would assume that means that you use the Solaredge app to monitor your system, right, Rick? Let us know. This is the finished smaller array. Again, just about 3 kilowatts of generation capacity here. This is the finished larger array, 4 kilowatts of generation. Again, his system's about 7.5 kilowatts all in. This is the inside of the sub panel. It looks like, actually, this is the inside of the Tesla inverter. That can't possibly be right. My Tesla inverter looks nothing like this. Huh. I mean, I see the breaker switches. So this is a breaker panel, a sub panel that's going to tie it into the rest of the system. You can see the main shutoff switch. You can see the MPPT units tied in on the left-hand side. This is a glamour shot of the 2 Powerwalls. They look great. These are the techs hard at work commissioning the system. They look great too. Concentrating hard, making sure the job's done right. And this is the company that did the installation, Solar Energy Solutions. And congratulations, Rick. I mean, this is pretty huge, pretty exciting. Let us know how your system performs. We want to know how much of your daily usage you're able to cover in practice, especially since you have the batteries, right? I know those are mainly for backup, but they will give you some extra usage overnight. Maybe you'll be fully off grid. I don't know. It's going to be hard. It'd be interesting to know how it ends up going for you. But of course, the most important bit, how much money are you saving? Anyway, thanks for sending the photos. It's a really highly appreciated contribution. Really, really, really appreciate that. Thank you to Marti Edwards, to Dwight Adams, Rick Reed, all of you for your input. Let's hear from the rest of you too. Send in your YouTube links, your comments below. Call 203-816-5150. Or you can email teslapowerpodcast@gmail.com. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get into the news. So this episode, we have a full docket of 5 stories to cover. First, we have an article from the NASDAQ. They have a little piece on the cost of solar panels. Let's take a look. Quote, based on the national average electricity bill of $122, it would take anywhere from 7 to 15 years to recoup your investment into a solar system from savings on your electricity bill. Arizona and Nevada have the lowest cost for solar installations, the highest potential for power, making them the leading states for taking advantage of a home solar system, end quote. And these payback periods, I mean, they're quite a bit longer than I've even calculated for myself. And this is simple solar. We're not even talking about the Tesla solar roof. So I don't know. I'm an energy hog, so I suppose my payback will be quicker than the average bear, but we're all going to be using more electricity, right? As we shift to electric vehicles and possibly electric heating. I don't know. Generally, I've got to say it's pretty great that energy is so cheap for most of the country here in the United States. I mean, it's straight up a great sign of the effectiveness of a government, cheap energy for its population. But, as far as the payback period goes, aside from my particularly high usage, we can see that net metering and government rebates are a really substantial portion of this calculation. And we really need to get to a point where solar and batteries compete in their own right. And what's that going to take? Well, what makes anything affordable, right? Scale, basically. Financing actually is another big part of it, right? So scale bit is coming. Unfortunately, we're at a bit of a pinch point with batteries. I think we'll be able to work through that in the next 3 years. But financing, let's talk more about this. The most effective way to finance for most individuals is with a mortgage. It's where they're going to get the best interest rate over the longest period of time. I mean, you can't finance a car for 30 years, for example. Often you can't finance a car for as low a rate as you can for a house either. And that's because real estate values have the possibility of going up. They certainly hold their value much longer. And things are way more blessed in this way in the United States. Other countries, many other countries don't have a 30-year mortgage option at such favorable rates for sure. Another example of how our government, I think, is doing a pretty good job of supporting the middle class. Discussion for another time. But this might be a very interesting business for banks. If they offer something like a renovation loan when a home is purchased, specifically for solar and batteries, those can be integrated into the home at the point of sale, and they can be financed with a mortgage. In fact, maybe I've stumbled onto an additional business for Tesla, home mortgages. In fact, renovation could also include a future product, HVAC. It should definitely include windows, insulation upgrades. I don't know. I'm going to have to dive deeper into this in a future episode. This has got some wheels turning. There might really be some interesting stuff here. All right, next up, we've got a story from ScreenRant. They go through a similar exercise with the Tesla solar roof. Let's see what they've got to say. Quote, if considering the financial side of a solar roof and savings from reduced energy bills, it takes quite some time to pay off such a large investment. The Tesla solar roof with a Powerwall results in 100% energy offset, maybe, meaning the bill for grid power could be as low as $0, never, because you're always going to be connected to the grid, depending on how grid power is charged at the location of the installation. Dividing the total price of a $44,500 Tesla solar roof by the $150 utility bill results in the total cost of the investment being recovered in 297 months, which is 24 years and 9 months, end quote. Now, this is all a bit optimistic. You heard me like giving my positives there. If you've done any shopping for the solar roof, you know you can't get a full system for $44,000. You just can't do it. You know, I would love it if it were that way. It just doesn't happen to be. The roof portion, I mean, just that without the batteries is probably going to be about 60 grand, putting this payback period in the weeds, you know, way past its expected lifespan. Let's do some looking though on Tesla.com just to get an idea of the prices for homes and to see what the value proposition is for estimated $150 a month electricity bills. So there are a couple places that I lived in California that I want to just look at. The first one was a duplex. So that was at 1318 Rose Avenue in Modesto. Now, you know, California is a lot different as far as locales go because their electricity rates are a lot higher. So, you know, I don't happen to know what we, you know, we're spending on electricity back then, but you can see 72,000. Now let's make sure it's just solar roofs. So we're going to remove the Powerwalls. You can see that goes down to $63,000, which is a lot. And little asterisk there, big difference is that is potential incentives included. So if we get rid of that, it's 80 grand. For the sake of this exercise, you do get those incentives. So we will show the incentive version. So it's like, I don't know, I think 25% from the federal government at the moment. Anyway, that first data point, $63,000, $64,000 essentially for a solar roof. So let's go to another address. It's actually on the same street. This is a little farmhouse. You can see that the roof square footage is estimated to be quite a bit smaller. And you can see, as a result, the solar roof would be quite a bit less. So about 37,000, which is actually, I don't know, that's, you know, less than the $44,000 number that they were using in the example, wasn't it? So 1318, very large at 63,000. 1336, very small at 37,000. Let's look at a place in the Dallas area. You can send my mom a thank you note. This is her address in Carrollton, which is a suburb of Dallas, Texas. You can see their roof is much larger. It went up from 1,500 square feet to almost 3,500 square feet of roof space. And you can see they would have to spend $75,000 to get a Tesla solar roof without any batteries. It's so much. I also picked a random address in Albany, New York, just to give us, you know, some breadth. And I have it here. All of this stuff is in the show notes. So you can do all of this yourself and just check my numbers, make sure that things are what you would expect. Make sure they are the way that I'm purporting they are. So we can see here, tiny roof, less than 1,000 square feet. And, you know, Tesla solar roof on that's only going to be 20 grand. So I don't know. that's really not that bad. So if we were to go to the calculator here and just add those up, I got to get my cursor into the calculator here. So what is it? So the first one was 63,000. The second one was 38,000. The next one was 75,000, and the last one was 20,000. Divided by 4, 49,000. I mean, I don't know. We're in the ballpark, right? They had estimated about 44,000. So maybe this article is closer than I thought. It still does not cover batteries. Again, that's going to be about $20,000 more for 2. And you'll probably want more than that. I need at least 3, possibly 4, but I don't know. We'll talk more about that in this episode. But I need to do a whole other episode on that. So all in all, I would say this isn't that bad. You get a free roof, right? That roof looks great. You get energy security, which is super huge. And you get to be the coolest kid on the block. Jury is still out on it adding value to your home. So that could be another potential advantage. But we'll keep an eye on that over the next decade. As houses that have solar roofs installed go on the market, we can see what they actually bring in terms of value. All right, so the next article we've got, this is from Teslarati. They report on the Q1 drop in Tesla solar installations. They say, quote, Tesla's solar deployment figures were hit hard by chip shortages and import delays beyond our control in 2020's first quarter. Despite the drop in installations, CEO Elon Musk still expects positive and encouraging developments in Tesla energy in 2022. Tesla reported solar deployments of 48 megawatts in Q1, a 44% drop from Q4 in 2020's 85 megawatt, and a 48% drop from the same quarter last year with 92 megawatts. Tesla's energy sector has routinely delivered between 80 and 95 megawatts of deployment per quarter for the past year, but Q1 of 2022 was the division's only 27 megawatt deployment. I don't know what they're comparing to Q2 of 2020. That actually doesn't make any sense to me. But supply chain, obviously cramping Tesla's style, for sure. They're not alone. The big difference here is that Tesla as a business prioritizes their car business when it comes to batteries. They also prioritize the car business when it comes to components. And don't forget, there's a lot of commonality between the car components and the solar components. So this steep drop in solar installations really shouldn't be a surprise. The question I ask is, when will Tesla no longer be supply constrained for solar and home battery storage? It's just getting killed by the car business. I want the car business to grow, don't get me wrong. It's certainly, now's the time to ramp. We're seeing all sorts of indications that more and more people want electric vehicles. So the more electric vehicles that can be made, the more people can buy, since they want them in the first place. So at the moment, it looks like it'll be a long time before Tesla residential energy can get the attention that it needs. In fact, it may be, I don't know, the remainder of the decade. It might even be longer than that. We would specifically have to see slowing growth in the car business, I think, before we can expect to see an acceleration in the ramp of the home energy business. Not the kind of news that I really want to be delivering, but we've got to look at it realistically, right? If the car business is still ramping and they can't catch up to demand on just the car side, then there's just no hope for the home residential energy side. So until that car production ramp is complete, Tesla will continue to prioritize the car business over the energy business as a matter of necessity based on the available resources. Next up, we've got an article from KXAN. They are reporting on why demand for solar in Texas is surging. Let's read it. Quote, it's a little bit further down here, actually. Here we go. And after the deadly February 2021 winter storm strained ERCOT grid to the point of near collapse, Jonathan and his company have seen a significant surge in residential solar energy demand. Shortly after the storm, they were setting anywhere between 150 to 200 appointments per day, Baldrige said. Personally, we were hard down for 4 days. I live in South Austin. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and it got really cold. End quote. And when you have kids energy security, like just security in general, becomes a big deal. Energy security for sure. I've mentioned several times that we were pushed over the edge by a 5-day grid down event here in Connecticut. Energy security in those types of events, I mean, especially when you've got a family to take care of, it's an impossible thing to put numbers on. We are super blessed in the United States that even in these kinds of situations, very few people get desperate, and most people are still able to get their basic needs met. But I tell you, it's a real blow when you encounter this kind of situation and you aren't prepared. Texans, to their credit, are getting prepared with one of the most practical ways to do it, solar. Generally, in these kinds of situations in the past, people would be buying gas generators. But I think if we think this through a little bit, you can see why it's not the best idea. You have a gas generator, but in a crisis, you may encounter a gas shortage. Gas prices are already high. Maybe they'll go higher. But what if there isn't enough to go around, just full stop? What if there's an extended grid down event? Then what? Solar with batteries means you don't have to worry about gas. 40% of customers, according to this article, are looking at battery backup for this reason. Just the self-reliance. And this is the self-reliant America I know, right? It's getting prepared so you can take care of your family and have a little bit extra, maybe to help others too. I don't know. It gives me a little bit of emotional thinking about it, because this is like, these are the core issues that you got to deal with as a family man. So next up, we've got an article from Digital Journal. They report on yet another solar roof competitor, sort of. Let's take a look at this. All right, so Mitrex, they disrupt the solar roof industry with innovative technologies and products. Quote, if we go down a little bit, what separates Mitrex from the vast majority of contemporary rooftop solar panel manufacturers is the attention to detail in terms of aesthetics. Quote, the main problem with traditional rooftop solar panels is the poor aesthetics. For example, the look of conventional blue or black solar panels often ruins the architectural design of residential homes. However, at Mitrex, we believe that sustainability should not be a burden on design. Therefore, we have designed solar shingles that match the appearance of typical rooftop building materials, says Mitrex spokesperson, end quote. And well, this is really an aesthetic solar panel, right? I mean, let's take a look at these photos. I had that photo up originally, actually. You can see that the system sets proud above the roof. You can see this, little shadow line under here. It's more a solar panel than a solar roof. I got to say, it's not the worst thing I've seen, but it's not a uniform look. I wonder how well you can even match your Mitrex design to your own roof. I mean, even in their photo here, they have architectural shingles, but the coloration isn't very close to what's actually on their roof. So you still run into some other problems too. What happens to the panels when the roof needs to be replaced? You're going to have to remove them, replace the roof, and then put them back on. I don't know. It's definitely not the direction I would take. I welcome innovation. I have seen these kinds of designs before, so this isn't exactly brand new. I think my biggest problem is I just take issue with them calling this a solar roof. These are panels. It's a far cry from a truly building integrated photovoltaic solution. Anyway, that will do it for the news this week. This episode. Let's take another quick break. When we come back, we'll get into the featured video. So I got thumped by HBO with a takedown in my last video. Apparently, they don't take kindly to YouTubers using their clips for commentary, which is a huge shame, but whatever. YouTube, they do their best to offer tools to trim out the contested portions of those videos, but it still freaking cut off the whole last third of my last video. So I had to do an edit in Premiere, re-upload the whole thing. What a pain. So only obscure, uncool videos from now on, right? This time we're going to take a look at an episode or a video featuring an amusing educational video from one of the presenters from the American version of Top Gear, Jason Camisa. He takes us on a grand tour of the kilowatt versus the kilowatt hour. Shall we try to include a clip? Let's do it.
So instead we use a unit called kilowatt hours. It sounds like kilowatts, the power, but it's not. Kilowatt hours is a measure of energy capacity. And it's very simple. A battery rated at 100 kilowatt hours can deliver 100 kilowatts for 1 hour. Or it could deliver 50 kilowatts for 2 hours, or 1 kilowatt for 100 hours. Super simple.
Super simple indeed. So hopefully you got to see that. We'll see. I don't know. But go watch the video. I put the link in the description. The whole thing is really helpful to understand what the difference is between kilowatt and kilowatt hour. I put that link in the description. As I said, just go and watch it. It's super informative. Now, the question is, why do we need to know this? And the reason is this is a bit of energy literacy we all need. It's not just because of the move to electric cars. That's Jason's reason for making his video, but it also are the units of measure used for residential solar and battery storage, right? The most important bit for this, for those of us who are looking for a Tesla solar roof or solar panels paired with Powerwalls, is to see how many Powerwalls we need. So let's do some math, right? So if I pull up the Tesla app, I just want to show you a couple of data points, right? Data is probably the most important bit of all of this. If we don't have some data, then what does it all mean? And these are the thought processes you're probably going to go through as you make your decision as well. So let me pull up that Tesla app. We can see it here if I just do that. All right. We're going to take month numbers so we can see total usage for May. Here was 1,626.4. We'll round that off. For April, it was 1,300. No, these are the wrong numbers. Those were solar generation. So the home usage for May was 1,215 kilowatt hours. The usage for April is 880 kilowatt hours. And then for March, it was 1,287 kilowatt hours of usage. So let's see what the daily average usage has been then. So if we go over to the calculator, it's got to get my cursor on it as I keep mentioning. So we will clear this out. We will start with the 1215. We're going to round that up. 1216 plus 880 plus 1287. And we're going to divide that by 90 days to get a daily average of 37.5. We're actually going to round that up to 40 kilowatt hours. For me, I want to have a battery that's going to be able to meet my requirements for a full day of storage. And this is going to account for things like multiple cloudy weather days during a grid down event. So if each Powerwall is 13.5 kilowatt hours of storage, then, I didn't do that right. So if we've got 40, we're going to divide that by the capacity, 13.5. I might be able to squeak by with 3 Powerwalls. But what happens when usage is higher? Our usage is very seasonal, so we use a lot more over the summer. So what happens when our usage is higher over the summer? What if we get another electric car? What about conversion loss? That's a huge one that we have talked about on this channel. It's going to reduce the effective capacity by 15%. So all of this is adding up to a 4th Powerwall required to cover a 24-hour period. Of course, we can be conservative and use less during a grid down event. So it's not just a matter of covering average daily use, but you can see how complicated the calculation gets when you start thinking through, different scenarios, different requirements. So I stand by my assertion that 2 Powerwalls are needed at a minimum. No exceptions. I would say no exceptions, because that gives you a full home backup in a grid down event. Otherwise, you've got to go start switching off panels. It's a mess. So if you want just full automatic backup, even if it's not for that long, then you need 2 Powerwalls. Some will want 3 and many will want 4. And as I mentioned before, we'll get deep into the weeds on this in a future episode. But that's our video for the week. Just go check it out in the link below. Go get yourself educated. So back to the Tesla app. We want to check on some production, right? So we can see if we go back to the daily usage, today we're at about 17.5. We just haven't had very good production these last few days. It's been cloudy. We've had a lot of rain. But if I go back a couple more days, you can see some better curves. This one here, over 70 kilowatt hours. We did have a heavy thunderstorm, and that washed off the panels a little bit. So it was producing up into the mid 70s and high 70s. I was hoping that it would get even higher than that, but those heavy rains, there's going to wash off a little bit of the pollen, and where I'd hoped that we were going to get beyond the 70s into the 80s, we're still not getting there. It's really still staying in the 70s, but not complaining, right? Let's just compare it to my brother-in-law's system. That's where I'm really going to care more about it. So, I want to be beating what he's doing, but he is kicking ass, actually. He's up in the high 70s. Some of the not so good days he's below in the 60s, but you can see on average he's doing very well, basically in the 70s, and maybe he'll be able to get into the 80s at some point as well. Now, if we compare the full month numbers, you can see he has generated 682 kilowatt hours so far this month. And if we go back to the Tesla app and change it over to the month view, you can see we are right on their heels. Not quite to 680, but 676 kilowatt hours generated so far this month. So comparing the month, both systems are producing very comparably. Of course, he's ahead ever so much, ever so slightly, much to my chagrin. I need those bragging rights, right, to retain my place as coolest in-law in the family, as if I ever was. But let's get to the 1 year review. I promised it in this episode, so let's get it done. Now, over the last 2 months, I had teased our electricity bill. It was only $12 to get connected to the grid. We didn't use any electricity from the grid at all. But let's get all of this graphed and compared to pre-solar roof values. Now, the first bit that I'm interested in is in total usage. And we're going to compare that total usage in year 1 without the solar roof to year 2 with the solar roof. Now, we spent more time at home during the pandemic, so our usage might be lower in year 2, but you can see here that I've got a set of calculations going in a spreadsheet. I should just pull that full screen. And I've developed these into graphs to give some better context over time. Numbers can be pretty dry, but let's get a look at that first graph. So graph number 1, you can see our consumption by month. Orange is with the solar roof, blue is without the solar roof. So our consumption this year started out quite high, but has been tracking lower consistently month over month. And then if we look at the overall year numbers here, you can see that we've used about 5% less electricity. So our total usage, according to our electricity bills, was 18,858. And now it's for the second year, according to the Tesla app, was almost right at 18,000 kilowatt hours. Now, the reason I say according to our electricity bills is there's a discrepancy between what the utility bills say and what the Tesla app says. Generally, I would assert that the Tesla app is more accurate since it's done automatically and it's not estimated by a human reading a meter. Of course, once we start producing our own electricity, you'll see that the utility will show less than our actual consumption since we'll no longer be pulling all of our electricity from the grid. So let's take a look at our first graphs. Again, you can see that my expectation that we used less electricity in year 2 is correct. We're down about a megawatt hour, about 800 kilowatt hours, more accurately. And because we're down about 5%, we will save about 5% less than we would have if we had continued to consume more. And that's very exciting because we know that we'll be consuming more for sure. It would be better if we were producing more, of course, and that's a possibility down the line. But the real kicker is that we're not net metering because we don't yet have PTO. Anyway, back to the charts. So this one is graph number, or set of graphs number 2. And this is electricity bill by month. And this is where the great stuff is. Tracking our monthly bill, you can see that our bill is down significantly every month, as it should be, right? Every month we're saving somewhere between let's see, $150 and $350. Love seeing that. That is great. And last year, we spent almost $5,000 on electricity, and this year we only spent about $2,000. You can see that our cumulative savings this year have been all the way up to $3,000. Interestingly, it's pretty consistent. It doesn't ramp as much during the summer like I expected it would. And then if we go to graph number 5, pair of graphs on graph number 5, you can see that if we take into account our lower usage, that our potential savings would have been a little bit higher, but only barely. We're really just talking about a couple $100 over the entire year. So This all is going to vary year by year because our usage each year and our production each year are going to be different. But if we project these values out over the expected 25-year life of the product, we can see some interesting stuff. So let's come back over to it. You can see here that we would have been projected to spend $118,000 over the next 25 years to power the home. But it's now projected to cost only $45,000 to power the home. Now, that's a projected 25-year savings of about $72,000. And if we consider that we used a lot less electricity this year, that savings could go up to $76,000 per year. Now, we're going to keep the same conservative estimates because all of this is going to depend on overall production. And this does not account for, like I said, net metering. It definitely doesn't, I hadn't mentioned this, but it doesn't include rising electricity costs either. And I haven't even accounted for the savings of the asphalt roof that I would have had to purchase if I hadn't purchased the solar roof. So these savings, you know, if you start to consider the wider view, they could be a little bit better depending on how things turn out. Now, the final thing that I want to look at is comparing what it cost versus the savings. So you can see here on the left-hand side, we spent $399.66, and we will save an estimated $72,962.50, making this nearly a $13,000 delta. We should make $13,000 more in electricity than it cost us to put the roof on. Now, this does not take into account the time value of money. So we could look at this in a more sophisticated way, but this simple way of looking at the investment definitely feels good and will keep you up to date so we can kind of see how this develops over time. So it's a bit of a journey. Please come on the journey with us, right? Now, let's talk about PTO. PTO. All right. Still don't have it, but Tesla did come visit on Friday, and they updated the settings and the firmware on both the gateway and on the inverters. I guess we'll look for a redo of the witness test over the next couple of weeks. See how it goes, and I will let you know. Anyway, that will do it for episode 58 of the Tesla Power Podcast. Please use my referral code. You can save $300 on a solar roof, $300 on solar panels. You go to ts.la/Aaron62310 to place your order. And I'm Aaron Brady, your Tesla Residential Energy Community Organizer. Let's do this again on the next video.